All right, everyone, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and let's deep dive into some seriously messy political comedy.
Yeah,
You sent us this article about comedian Tony Hinchcliffe,
right.
those wild jokes he made at a Trump rally,
Mm.
and the even wilder fallout.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking Trump defends Puerto Rico trashing comedian Tony Hinchcliffe
Mm.
from name of publication. Get ready, because this one's a total dumpster fire.
Oh, yeah. This is gonna be a good one, I think.
Yeah. So what makes this situation so fascinating to you?
Well, what's fascinating here is how this situation spirals out of control.
Yeah.
You have a comedian known for pushing boundaries, making offensive jokes about Puerto Rico and Jewish people at a Trump rally.
Yeah.
Then you have Trump himself,
Oh, yeah.
claiming he has no clue who this guy even is and pointing the finger at the Democrats.
It's like a canonical circus act, right?
Totally, yeah.
So Hinchcliffe gets on stage at this Trump rally, and let's just say he did not hold back.
He did not.
He called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage and threw in some anti-Semitic humor for good measure.
Yeah.
Not exactly a recipe for a feel-good evening.
No, not at all. And the backlash was immediate. This wasn't just Democrats clutching their pearls. Even Republicans, including the chairman of the Republican Party of Puerto Rico, came out swinging against Hinchcliffe's performance.
Yeah.
Clearly, this wasn't just a few bad jokes. It struck a nerve.
Yeah. And so what does Trump do? He goes on Fox and Friends and gives us a classic Trump performance,
Of course.
claims to have no idea who Hinchcliffe is, and says he didn't even hear the jokes. Come on, really?
This is where Trump's masterful spin comes in.
Right.
He tries to downplay the whole thing, calling it one little joke told early in the show when barely anyone was even there.
Right.
He's trying to shrink the controversy down to practically nothing.
Right, like it's just some random guy muttering to himself in an empty room.
Exactly.
But then he does what he does best.
Oh, yeah.
Blames the Democrats.
Right.
He accuses them of making a big deal out of it and trying to ruin what he calls a gorgeous, unbelievable patriotic evening.
But think about it. If it was just one little joke to an empty room, why is he getting so defensive?
Yeah.
It seems like he's going way overboard to distance himself from Hinchcliffe in the whole mess.
It's totally suspicious, right? Like he's trying to hide something.
Oh.
And just when you think it can't get any weirder,
Oh, yeah.
Trump pivots to talking about all the great things he did for Puerto Rico during his presidency.
Oh, boy.
He even throws in a, nobody's been better to Puerto Rico than me, for good measure.
And here's where the irony alarm starts blaring.
All right.
Trump is defending a comedian who made incredibly offensive jokes about Puerto Rico while simultaneously bragging about being the island's savior.
Right. He even boasts about saving Puerto Rico after the hurricanes by sending in the hospital ship USNS Comfort.
Right.
It's almost too much cognitive dissonance to handle.
This is what makes this situation so revealing. It's like a tiny little window into the current political landscape where you have these completely conflicting narratives crashing into each other.
It's a total mess, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, it's wild how a comedian's jokes can turn into a political weapon overnight. This whole thing has become a political football with everyone scrambling to avoid the blame.
Yeah, it's like a blame game on steroids. Trump blames the Democrats. Hinchcliffe is probably blaming the audience for not getting his edgy humor, and the Democrats are likely trying to figure out how to turn this whole thing to their advantage.
What's fascinating here is how this incident shines a light on the role of humor in politics. When does a joke cross the line from satire or commentary to something that's just plain offensive and harmful?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line? Humor is so subjective. What one person finds hilarious, another might find deeply offensive. And when you throw in the already charged atmosphere of a political rally, it becomes even more complicated.
Exactly. And in this case, Hinchcliffe wasn't just telling any jokes. He was targeting vulnerable groups, which adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation.
It's like he took the whole punching up rule of comedy and chucked it out the window.
Precisely. And this brings us to another interesting point. Trump's defense of Hinchcliffe seems to completely contradict his own claims of being a champion for Puerto Rico. How can he claim to have saved Puerto Rico while simultaneously defending someone who made such incredibly disparaging remarks about the island and its people?
It's mind-boggling, right? It's like he's trying to have his cake and eat it, too appealing to his base with his tough guy rhetoric, while also trying to maintain some semblance of support from other groups.
It's a delicate balancing act, and one that he doesn't always manage to pull off successfully. But it's important to remember that this is all part of the larger strategy. By deflecting blame and controlling the narrative, Trump is able to shape public perception and maintain a sense of control over the situation.
So what does this all mean for the average person trying to navigate this political and comedic minefield? It's like trying to walk through a field of landmines blindfolded.
Well, I think it highlights the importance of being a critical consumer of information, especially in today's hyper-partisan world. We need to be able to differentiate between humor that's meant to make us think and humor that's simply meant to be divisive or hurtful.
It's about understanding the context, the intent, and the potential impact of the jokes we hear and the rhetoric we encounter. We can't just passively consume everything that's thrown at us.
Exactly. And it's also about being willing to have those uncomfortable conversations and challenge our own biases and assumptions. We all have a responsibility to contribute to a more civil and productive public discourse.
It's a tall order, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But hey, if we can unpack this whole Hinchcliffe Trump Puerto Rico saga, maybe there's hope for us yet.
I like your optimism. And,
Yeah.
this whole situation really does make you think, what does it say about our society when a comedian can make blatantly offensive jokes at a political rally and the politician hosting the rally tries to distance himself by claiming ignorance? It's a pretty bleak picture.
It's like a political and comedic game of hot potato. Nobody wants to be left holding the burning spud.
And yet here we are trying to make sense of it all. I think it's safe to say that this incident will likely become another talking point in the already heated political discourse surrounding the upcoming election.
Oh, absolutely. The Democrats will probably use it to paint Trump as out of touch and insensitive, while Trump will likely double down on his claims that it was just one little joke and that the whole thing is being blown out of proportion by the fake news media.
It's a predictable pattern, but one that's nonetheless frustrating.
Well, one thing's for sure. This whole situation has given us plenty to think about.
Indeed, and perhaps that's the silver lining in all of this. It's forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the state of our political discourse and the role of humor in such a charged environment.
So to wrap things up, here's a thought-provoking question for all of you listening out there. What does this incident reveal about the current state of political discourse and the role of humor in such a charged environment? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts on the situation.
And as always, keep those critical thinking caps on, folks.
Catch you on the next deep dive. Yeah, it really does feel like we're watching this political drama unfold
Oh, yeah.
in real time, and the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
This whole situation with Hinchcliffe and Trump really highlights the power dynamics at play.
Absolutely. Think about it. You have a comedian
Right.
who's trying to make a name for himself,
Right.
pushing the boundaries to get a reaction.
Yeah.
Then you have a politician like Trump,
Right.
who's known for using these rallies to control the narrative and fire up his base.
And it seems like in this case, Hinchcliffe's jokes, whether intentional or not, played right into Trump's strategy.
I think so.
It created a distraction, shifted the focus away from any potential criticisms, and gave Trump an opportunity to play the victim.
Right. And by claiming he doesn't know Hinchcliffe and blaming the Democrats for making a big deal out of it,
Yeah.
Trump effectively turns the tables.
Right.
He positions himself as the defender of free speech and paints the Democrats as overly sensitive and out of touch.
It's a classic Trump move: deflect, distract, and attack. But what's interesting is that while this strategy might work with his base,
Yeah.
it could alienate more moderate voters who are looking for a leader who takes responsibility and promotes unity.
Exactly. And this is where the real danger lies.
Yeah.
By constantly resorting to these divisive tactics, Trump risks further polarizing the country and undermining the very fabric of our democracy.
It's a sobering thought,
Yeah.
and one that we need to grapple with as we head into this election. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we're left with a lot more questions than answers. What does this incident tell us about the future of political discourse? How do we find a way to have productive conversations across ideological divides when even humor has become weaponized?
These are tough questions, and there are no easy solutions. But one thing is for sure, we can't afford to be complacent. We need to be critical thinkers, engage in thoughtful discussions, and hold our leaders accountable for their words and actions.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of political comedy and its unintended consequences.
Yeah, this was a doozy.
Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. We want to hear what you think.
Absolutely. And until next time, stay curious and stay informed.
Catch you on the next deep dive.